Okay, in a few minutes I'm going to start a little talk, but to begin with I'm going to just spend 5 minutes being quiet and meditating. That's how I regenerate energy, and I need to regenerate it this evening. So if you need to carry on talking or chatting, you're most welcome to. Very good. I did promise to give a short Dhamma talk now, and thank you for giving me the opportunity just to sit quietly for 5 minutes. I have been talking a lot of Dhamma talks over the last 9 or 10 days, first of all in Malaysia and then over in Singapore. It's not only there that sometimes people see me in airports, you try and give your best advice and inspiration, thereby being able to serve others. I don't know about you, how you deal with when you're very, very tired. Sometimes you can try and get a rest, but sometimes that rest is not given to you. And because of that, I always love the little saying which I put in one of those first books, the little poem, grant yourself a moment of peace. And to grant yourself means you can't accept it to come your way. But you make that aspiration and will. So, you deserve some peace. Grant yourself it. And then number one, it inspires others. It inspires others that you know just how important that peace and that meditation, that stillness is. And how it encourages others to find that time off, that peace, that ease, and that rest which comes from meditation. I do recall so often in my life, in fact the last time in my life when I had a meditation retreat for myself over in the Rains retreat. And even there was many things to do, decisions to make, and because I was like the head monk, a lot of busyness to do. You try to do it the best you can, with the help of so many other people to give you advice and to do little jobs for you. But in the end, you know that if anything goes wrong or doesn't go the way that people expect, it always comes back to you. That's the job of being the senior monk. And also, that sometimes you do get tired. But the last time I gave myself a personal retreat, during the Rains retreat, I think it was in September, I do recall just the first couple of days, I told myself, don't try. Just you're going to be tired, you're going to be sleepy, you're going to be exhausted. I am an old monk now, and I do still work very, very hard, and happy to work hard. But I know that sometimes you do get tired, and one of the best ways to deal with that tiredness and still be able to perform but without stressing yourself out is just to give yourself those moments of peace, like I just did a few moments ago. When you do give yourself that calmness and that peace, it's amazing just what can happen. It's amazing just how you see things you never expected, and problems disappear and get solved. I do remember, because it was only just about 6 months ago, or less than that, in September doing a personal retreat, expecting to sleep most of it. But the first day, you slept, and because there was no even thought, even in the background, you have to do this, you have to do that. Then just after even just the first night, and then getting up in the morning and meditating, it was amazing just how peaceful that meditation was. And seeing the beautiful nimittas, and that kind of shocked me. When you weren't trying because you thought you were too tired, when you weren't tired, you got some of the best nimittas I've ever experienced. And it was kind of shocking. And to this day, you understand the body's energy is one thing, and the mind's energy is something totally different. And that's what I tend to utilize. Even yesterday, last night, when I was starting to feel tired, I told the little group, but quite a big group over in Singapore where I gave a talk last night. I told them about the first times I went to Singapore, When I went there, they had an innovative group, this Buddhist fellowship, and so they had written a script for a play to try and present Buddhism and Dhamma in an innovative way, not just by a monk giving a talk, by writing a play and acting it out. And apparently that I was supposed to perform in that play. As myself, I can't sing or dance. All I was doing is coming out at the last moment and giving a Dhamma talk to somebody. And to be able to do that, the first show was on a Saturday just after lunch. And I could manage to get to Singapore in time for that performance, only because I knew how to get the morning flight from Perth, which leaves at 6:40, still does. So I had to leave the monastery about 4, which means get up about 3. And so get up early in the morning and fly off to Singapore, arrive there just before noon, picked up from the airport, Changi Airport, and driven to this Victoria Theatre, an old theatre auditorium, so that we could do this performance. It was quite successful, but as soon as I'd done my performance, that I was exhausted. I got up really early, no rest, and performing as best I possibly could. Remember, that's after the Friday night talk here. Sorry, it's early Saturday morning. Usually I leave here at 4, get to the airport, get on the early morning flight. So you don't have much rest, and you're a bit sleep deprived. And then having to perform. And then they told me the next performance was going to be in the afternoon, about 3 p.m. or something. All the other people who were helping out in this performance, they all went to have dinner, or lunch rather. And of course, as a monk, you can't have lunch. So instead, I just asked, is there a quiet place I can sit and meditate? And on one of the exits, the exit doors at the end of this little passageway were closed, locked. Nobody could come in or go out. And so I thought, this is a beautiful place where I can meditate, and people will leave me alone there and it'd be quiet. All of you lot go off to eat. I'm going to stay and just meditate. And I did that for an hour or so, and while they were out for lunch. And it was so much better than having any food. Sitting down there, you were tired at first, but soon the energy started coming back again. And when it starts to come back, the mind becomes energized, at peace, revived. It's like learning how to sharpen up the batteries in your life, in your mind. It's as if this mind does receive a certain amount of energy and power. And if you use it all up, by thinking too much, by worrying, by planning, by negativity especially, eats up the energy of the mind. And if you stop reacting like that, soon the mind becomes very strong and powerful, which means it can revive so easily. And once you can feel it start reviving, it means from that time on, and maybe this was counterproductive, I was never afraid again of having to give a talk when you were really tired, or when you didn't know what you were going to talk about. I remember one of the talks which I gave years ago here in Nolamara was just on emptiness, and again I was tired when I started to talk, but I also remembered meditating beforehand. It made it like, and this is how I explained it to others, it was like the emptiness, the subject of the talk, was right in front of you. And it was just describing how you were experiencing this moment. in a very positive, beautiful way. And I always prefer that method of giving a talk, when you're only describing not what you believe or what you remember. It's like what's right in front of you, how you're experiencing this moment, and how powerful these meditations and the insight which comes from them are. How you can see things in a totally different way, which is not the way you expect, but the way that you can, with that kind of attitude, change something which would kind of devastate many people, and still give a good talk which people really love to hear, and also it's not a problem for you. I don't get stressed out giving talks. A lot of the times when I give a talk, it's like you're exploring all these different aspects of how the mind and the body work. And I've been doing that for such a long time that right now, just on a New Year's Eve, you know so much about just how this mind and body works, and how that you can let go of that past of 2024. If you had some really wonderful experiences in 2024, it doesn't mean you should collect those, put them in a photograph and frame it and put it on your wall. Everything about the past deserves to be let go of. Everything deserves to disappear, so it's free. I still remember when I used to go and visit my family in UK at this time of the year, over in December and New Year. It was a time when people would meet one another, just like the Chinese New Year when the family kind of gets together. So I remember going to many of those meetings so many times, and as a monk even. And also I just remember just how that service of giving happiness to others, but also how to give happiness to oneself. The two must always go together. Caring for others is caring for oneself, and caring for oneself is caring for others. You learnt all these in those many, many years of being a monk. So that's why, yes, it's a milestone, getting past the New Year's Eve and going to New Year's Day in 2024. But always, I remember, you don't need to collect those memories. They're always there for you to teach you whenever you need them. I remember one of those things I used to do at Christmas and New Year's for my mother, because I had gratitude for her to let me leave London to become a monk over in Thailand, and then eventually Australia. So when I came to Australia, the first time I went from Australia to UK, I remember just writing this letter or postcard to Ajahn Brahm, who at that time was my senior, and I told him how when I got to Perth airport, having checked in and waiting for the flight to leave, that how I cried. I cried because I'd stubbed my toe and it really hurt. I'm not an emotional person, but nevertheless, you cry when something really hurts. But more than that somebody very kindly offered a little stuffed toy, a stuffed kangaroo. And I thought it's a wonderful gift to give to the loved ones a long way away. And they really appreciated that because they could be reminded of me over in Australia. And it was so well received the next time I went over to visit my family at this time of year, that I took, I think the next time, a little koala bear, just a stuffed fluffy toy. And that was also well received. And the next time it was a stuffed toy kookaburra. And the next time a stuffed, actually I forget all the sequence, but when a kookaburra, then when I took a stuffed wombat, just a toy, then my poor old mother, she was so happy to receive it, but she tried to put it on the shelf so she could see it often, just as where they put many other things. But my poor old mother, as soon as she tried to put the wombat in the same place with the kookaburra, there was a platypus there as well, and a koala and a kangaroo, there was no more space. Because there was no more space on the shelf, she tried to balance things on top of each other, and all these things started falling off. And I told her, just that kookaburra, that kangaroo, you've had that for so many years. Throw that away or give it off to charity so there's more space for today's object, which I bought for you, which was a wombat. But my mother said, no, they're all important to me. And that's when I saw how the power of attachment causes sometimes like a mental breakdown. She was trying to keep too much stuff at the same time, even though it was good stuff. And she couldn't balance it all in the same place. And that became my simile of my mother's, they called it a mantle shelf at home. If you want to have a peaceful life, don't go collecting too much from your past, either good stuff or bad stuff. Otherwise you've got no place to put it all. If it needs to fall off, let it fall off. Let it disappear. There's nothing more peaceful and beneficial and joyful than having an empty shelf. So whatever comes in right now, you can place it in there, nothing else falls off, and you can enjoy it for the moment. And always remember that sort of simile. Whatever I try and collect, whatever people give me as gifts, yes, you receive it if you possibly can, keep it for a while, and then I will give it away. If I don't give it away, to auction it off or put it to a place where people can make better use of it than you do. And that's the life I've been living for so many years. It's one of the reasons why, as Venerable Kimberler, who picked me up from the airport this afternoon, just saw all my travel baggage. All these people over in Malaysia and Singapore giving me gifts. How big was my travel baggage, Venerable Kimberler? This is it. I'm not exaggerating. And so it's wonderful arriving at Perth Airport, because many of the customs and immigration people recognize me. And so I give them that little card of the customs declaration, and I say, oh, Ajahn Brahm, go through. They never check me. They don't need to check me. If they did, it would be so easy, 5 minutes to check me, because they respect me. They often ask, where is your other suitcases? And tell me that's a new person. I just lift up this one and say, this is it. And they say, oh, well done. You're what we expect from a monk. And these are sometimes people who aren't Buddhists. They give you that respect, simply because you travel from place to place. They ask you what you've been doing there, and it's been giving talks, helping people, making sure that you can give the same service I give here to those people in other countries who don't have the same access to good teachings. And even though they may not be Buddhist, it inspires them that what you're doing is always helping others. and trying to help it in a way which makes a good world. It's one thing to wish a person a happy new year, may things go well for you in the next year. And of course, I sometimes do the same, giving blessings and wishing people happiness in the new year. But I feel that you need to do more than that as a senior monk. You don't just wish them a happy new year, you tell them how it's done, how you can have a happy new year, no matter what is occurring for you. Even if you're really, really sick, even if you've got life-threatening diseases, whatever it is you're experiencing, never let the past define your future or limit it. All those times I used to go teaching prisoners in jail, I used to tell them that, yes, you did a crime some years ago, but that doesn't make you a criminal. I always told them, you're not a murderer or a thief or a rapist. You're a person who's done that terrible deed to others. But you know probably better than I do, that's not who you are. That's how you behaved. And it's something you feel ashamed of and probably found ways of never ever wanting to do that again. And finding ways which you won't do that again. I remember some of the wonderful people I'd met in the weirdest places, and just how, with a bit of trust, with a bit of encouragement, they became wonderful beings. And because of that, that was a teaching for others. It wasn't wishing them a happy new year, it was showing them how it's done. Remember this one guy, I love talking about him. I hope he doesn't mind me emphasizing him, but he was one of those first people I met in a jail who I trusted, and eventually he helped out so much when I needed a cook for one of the 9-day retreats. The person who was usually cooking couldn't do that job for us because they had a very bad cancer. They were going to die. But anyway, I got this guy at the last moment, and he was a brilliant cook. It was amazing just how hard he worked. And at the end of these 9-day retreats which we do, and many of you have been on those retreats, and after the end of the retreats I do a loving kindness meditation. It sets people in this beautiful mood where they also offer thanks and forgiveness to all the people who served on that retreat, like all the people who served for the Buddhist Society of Western Australia. You always remember them and want to offer their thanks. And this particular time they wanted to offer thanks to this cook. If you're on a retreat, many people have so many different dietary requirements. And this cook was such an amazing cook, worked so hard, and managed to provide the food which Malaysians or Singaporeans or Vietnamese or sort of the local Australians or wherever they come from, we have a very wide band of people who come here. And he was an amazing cook, and so much so that when they were going to say thank you to him, he disappeared. And they asked me, where's he gone? And that's when I told everybody the reason he had to go quickly was because he was only here on work release from Karnat prison farm. And that kind of shocked them. But then they asked me, well, why was he in the prison? He was such a nice guy. And when he was young, he raped someone. And as soon as I mentioned that word, you could see the response from the audience. They were kind of shocked that I had not employed, he wasn't paid any money, it was always done as a community service, that I had allowed a convicted rapist, to actually to feed everybody for 9 days. But then the shock showed them this was just their usual way of reacting. But now they'd been with him for such a long time, 8, 9 days, saw his character, and realized you cannot define a person by what they did so many years ago. You can forgive and give people a chance. I remember also, this is just what I was saying a few days ago over in Singapore. I remember just this time I used to go to Karnet Prison Farm every week to teach. And when I went there, one of the prisoners there, his name was Nick, and he very excitedly, when I got there a little bit earlier than usual, he grabbed me by the arm and took me to the school building. And there on one of the walls, he couldn't say anything because he was already tearing up. He showed me all these cards, greeting cards, which have been made by these children. They were 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds. It was from, I don't mind saying, Jarradale Primary School. Because at that time, the education department in Perth was concerned that drugs were even starting to find their way into primary schools. And even if they didn't find their way there, it was a wonderful opportunity in primary school to teach the children to be afraid, not afraid, but be wary of drugs. And so many schools were allowed to fund psychologists, professors, policemen and women to teach their children about what happens when they get involved in drugs. But this principal of Jarradale Primary School thought things out for herself and said the most effective way to teach our children to be wary of drugs is, why don't we invite 2 of those prisoners from Karnet to teach our children what it's really like from their first-hand experiences of suffering. And these 2 prisoners, one of which was Nick, spent the whole afternoon at a primary school. And they did a wonderful job of teaching the kids the real problems of what it felt like and how they lost so many of their family and their partners. And after they taught them that, the next day, as children do in primary schools, these 2 prisoners were so impressive and made such a difference to these children. The children were asked to write greetings cards to these prisoners. Thank you so much, Nick. I will never take drugs because of what you've taught us. Thank you so much. When you're released, please come and visit again. Please may you have a wonderful life when you visit. Well, I don't want to have the same sort of suffering which you experienced. And the words on these cards from these 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, was honest and powerful. And so when this Nick showed me these, he was crying his eyes out, he was weeping, he was hollering with the joy of having the opportunity to pay some of the debt which he'd amassed from that bad lifestyle and hurting so many others. It was a win-win situation for the kids and all for these couple of prisoners. That's one of the reasons why whenever I teach, you always want to include this kindness and forgiveness, letting, if it's at all possible, any people who have offended to pay off their debts in so many other different ways than just being punished, to share what it felt like with such integrity and honesty that the others understood. Life is a path of learning. We grow, I hope, wiser and kinder and more forgiving every year. It's one of the things which we learn at New Year's celebrations. Let the old year and all that happened in it pass away, disappear, vanish, let go. And then so the new year can be beautiful and fresh. Don't ever imprison the past in the walls of a jail and lasting off into the future. New year, new possibilities, openings and freedoms. That's one of the reasons why I love using the idea of a new year to give people that opportunity to let go and face the future in a beautiful way. Why not? So this is actually how we can celebrate the opportunity. We let go of the past, although we do learn some of the wonderful attitudes and techniques which worked for us. All those times which I learnt how when you're tired or exhausted, you never allow any bad feelings you have to give offense to anybody else. Instead, if you can, just take that opportunity to rest for a few moments. You know how to rest. You know how to. The titles of my talks, of my retreats over in Singapore, Malaysia, was relaxed to the max. What that means and how it's done. When you relax to the max, you don't get lazy. You get peaceful and wise and effective. You can produce so much more in your life. And of course that's one thing which we all love to be able to do. To produce more with less work, with more innovation, more kindness, doing things which don't just increase our bank balances, but increase just the way we use those assets of our life in a beautiful, meaningful way. And that way we become so much more effective human beings, not just for our own self or our own family, but as examples for the world. How we can inspire and lead through example, not just through theory, but for example, in ways which others can follow, and when they do, they that's what it is. No worries at all. Everybody leaves their mobile phones on sometimes. And it's beautiful that you don't get upset or angry. It's somebody who cares about you. And so that's a beautiful little message to share. You will be going home, but not quite yet. They'll have to wait a while till next year before you're coming home. Even though next year is only another 20 minutes time. But for this last 20 minutes of 2024, actually it's 24 minutes. It's 11:36, so 24 minutes, and that's appropriate. 2024, 24 minutes to go. So now I am going to just be quiet and silent, and then to do some meditation. The meditation I'm going to do, obviously, is loving kindness meditation. I'm not going to lead it. Instead, I'm just going to meditate, and hopefully you can synchronize with me. And you also practice this few minutes of kindness. It's through kindness which we can let go of the past. And all the actors, including you, all the people who contributed to your past. And at 12 midnight, then the two monks here will do some chanting. The Metta Sutta. Can we do it in English? Because in English, that's what everyone can understand. And after the Metta chant in English, then it's a wonderful way of coming in to 2025. If you start the process beautifully, the process continues usually very beautifully. The preparation you do at the beginning is so important with whatever you're doing for later on. So I'll now be quiet. Those who need to get up or go to the toilet, please do so quietly. It's only another 22 minutes until the midnight. So when it happens, then we will start the chanting. Thank you. happy 2025. Sabbarogo Vinimuto. That was in Pali. I'm not going to do it in English, sorry. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be happy. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, freed from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to false views. The pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So that's Happy New Year to each one of you. And thank you for your friendship and your care for so many years. Another year has come. I wish you all the very best. Thank you for coming. Happy New Year. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Hey. Excellent. Excellent. So please say Happy New Year to the one sitting next to you. Happy New Year, old friend.